What is your problem, man?
You're welcome.
What the heck is wrong with you?
What do you mean?
Don't give me that! All right, what's going on here, fellas?
The missile was about to hit the school. I just acted as fast as I could.
That doesn't change the fact that I don't have a car anymore. Who just throws a person's car at a missile?
You're serious?
Yeah, who's gonna pay for my car?
I guess I could.
Do you even have a real job?
Yes.
Do you have insurance?
I saw the whole thing. Call me.
Welcome to this week's edition of Capital City Sports. I'm Meredith Harvey.
And I'm Jonathan Hilliard. We've got a great show for you today, including the latest update on the men's and women's basketball teams.
And Super Bowl 41 is only a few days away.
We'll get it all started with last night's basketball game against Auburn.
Well, I mean, you can look at the stat sheet if you want, but the story of the game is not on that stat sheet. For the life of me, and I can't wait to get to my tape, I do not know what happened defensively in the first 7 minutes. For the life of me, I cannot understand that. They made some really nice offensive adjustments from their last game to this game. Really nice adjustments. But they didn't do anything that we hadn't seen in some other games and should have been able to defensively adjust to. And, we just could not get that done for whatever reason. It looked like, to me, that some of our players were unsure defensively. We looked very sure on offense, and we played well offensively. But defensively, that was it wasn't a lack of effort. There was some confusion there. Game, it almost got away from us there with 5 minutes or so to go, and I think it got up to 9 points. And they gave us an open window there to get back in it with a series of some missed free throws. And, it really came down to one possession. We're down 75-73, I think it was, and 75-73. And Robertson, who is a good free thrower, I believe it was him, missed 2 free throws. And we've got 4 guys on the line. They got 1, and they end up with the ball. And when you see that, you know it's not your night.
Coming up next on Capital City Sports, we'll introduce you to the latest international superstar on USC's campus. Freshman basketball player Efka Banulis takes center stage.
Only 3 days until the Super Bowl. We'll go inside the boardroom to find out who our panel thinks has the upper hand.
Steve Sprader and the Gamecock football team is reloading for next year. We'll talk recruiting later in the show.
All that and more coming up on Capital City Sports.
Don't go away. We'll be right back.
All right, Commissioner, hold on. I'll tell him.
Honey! It's Phil. The gold reserve is being attacked.
Tell him I'll be right there.
Don't forget to shut the window.
What? All right. What's the joke? What's so funny?
Alone and crying, boom, boom, pow. Crying, pom, pom, pow. Crying, chaka, chaka, cha. Crying is always good. Oh.
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many. But what if you've had just one too many? Buzz driving is drunk driving.
The bear climbed over the mountain, the bear climbed over the mountain, the bear climbed over the mountain, and what do you think he saw? What do you think he saw? What do you think he saw? The bear climbed over the mountain, the bear climbed over the mountain, the bear climbed over the mountain, and what do you think he saw?
Freshman forward Evka Benulis was brought in to help shore up the Gamecocks' outside shooting, and just halfway through his season, he's done much more than that. Now to Jonathan Hilliard for more.
3-point specialist, spot-up shooter, fundamentally sound European basketball player. That's what USC head coach Dave Odom thought he was getting when he signed Evka Benulis last year. The 6'7" forward from Lithuania has met those expectations in his first season as a Gamecock, but he hasn't stopped there. Just halfway through his freshman season, Benulis has cracked the starting lineup, something Odom never expected.
Since it's worked out that way, I'm very pleased with the fact that he is in that spot, and that will certainly bode well for the future.
According to Benulis, three-point shooting was a dimension he added when he came to the United States at Florida Air Academy. That added dimension caught the eye of Odom and other college coaches as he eventually landed at USC. Benulis says he wanted to contribute early, but that playing a starting role was not what he had in mind.
I just wanted to work hard, get better for the next season. That was pretty much my plan for this year. But it just turned in a good way for me, and I got lucky, I could say.
After choosing the Gamecocks over schools like Marquette and Gonzaga, Benulis has made an immediate impact on the team. He has played over 30 minutes in each of his last 4 games and has helped Carolina to notch its first couple wins in the SEC. A league Benulis thinks he underestimated.
Oh, this is much better league than I thought it is. I thought ACC is really good, but SEC is way better than any other conference. That's what I think.
While the Lithuanian native's success may be a surprise to fans, it hasn't been to his teammates. Senior point guard Trey Kelly says he could see it coming.
I'm not surprised because the guy works very hard, and he's the guy to come in to make shots. He can use his size on the defensive end to distract some guys, but his main point is to come out there and make threes, and he can shoot it. So that's his job. So when he comes out there, I'm gonna try to find him. We're gonna try to run some plays for him, and knock down some shots. So I'm not surprised because he's the guy that comes in the gym, work before practice and after practice, and just work on his jump shot. And I'm not surprised that he's making them.
On a team with little depth, Benulis' contribution has been welcome. And as just a freshman, you can expect to see that jump shot at USC for some time to come. Jonathan Hilliard, Capital City Sports. This Saturday, the Gamecocks will travel to Tuscaloosa to take on the Alabama Crimson Tide at 3 p.m., followed by a matchup on Wednesday with Eastern Division rival Kentucky at 8 p.m. in Rupp Arena. Now, let's see some highlights from other games in the SEC. Kentucky taking on the Tennessee Volunteers. Tennessee playing without their best player, Chris Lofton. This game took place in Kentucky. Both teams trying to get a leg up in the SEC East. Early in this game, Tennessee would go up 7-0 on the back of Jawan Smith hitting the three there, but Kentucky would not stay down for long. Here comes Ramel Bradley. He gets the bucket and the foul. The point guard would dominate at certain parts of this game. Later in the first half, it's Bradley giving Kentucky their first lead of the game at 15-13. In the second half now, it's Bobby Perry. Kentucky was lights out from three-point land. That was Perry for 3. Now it's Jody Meeks, the freshman, with the 3. Hits it. Kentucky building a huge lead here. They go on a 15-0 run. There you see Ramel Bradley. He was the team's leading scorer, and Kentucky would go on to win 76-57. Now to Arkansas and Alabama in the SEC West. Early in this game, it's Sonny Weems down the middle. Hits the floater for the Razorbacks. They went up 10-0 early in this game. Later in the first half, you see Patrick Beverly, the little guy, get up. Dunks it for Arkansas. They would build a huge lead in the first half, and they would hold it into the second half. In the second half, more of the same. Freshman Beverly for 3. He can shoot 2. Arkansas would build a 51-27 lead in this game. And here you see Stephen Hill on the wicked dunk up the middle. Arkansas up big on Alabama's home court, but here come the Tide. Here's a steal by Alonzo G. He's getting the ball, and he's gonna Alonzo G. I think I'll dunk this. Back comes the Tide in their home building. Now it's Richard Hendricks down low. He was big for the Tide late in this game, cuts it to a 5-point lead at 58-53. Here it looks like Bama might get a steal, but Arkansas gets it to their man, and he is fouled. They call a flagrant foul. Arkansas would hold on, hit the free throws, and win 63-57. Now taking a look at the SEC standings, Florida continues to dominate the SEC, still being undefeated and leading the Eastern Division. The surprising Georgia Bulldogs come in at second, followed by Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Tennessee, and South Carolina. The western side is clustered, with Arkansas rising to the top after a win over Alabama. They're followed by Auburn, Alabama, LSU, and Mississippi State, with Ole Miss rounding out the Western Division.
Coming up on Capital City Sports, we'll get you all caught up on the USC hoops from the ladies' perspective. Find out how Coach Walvius and her squad are doing after the break.
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many. But what if you've had just one too many? Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Today, the world we live in is fast-paced and ever-changing. We need a senator who will lead us into the future. We need courage. We need integrity. We need someone who won't walk away from trouble. We need Bag of Leaves. Cast your vote to elect Bag of Leaves in the midterm elections.
If you're not voting, then who are you electing?
After a couple seasons of growing pains, USC women's basketball coach Susan Walvius finally feels like she's got the team to compete. Could that translate into a win over Kentucky on Sunday in the Colonial Center? Let's go down for more highlights. The USC women's basketball team taking on Kentucky. They're at 2-4 in the conference coming into this game. Early in the first half, it's Lauren Sims, the leader of this ball club, hitting the fadeaway jumper. USC gets off to an early lead. Then the other star of the team, Melanie Johnson, she's going to cross over, hits the mid-range jumper, and USC is up 11-6 early. But here comes Kentucky. Lydia Watkins, the turnaround jumper, gets Kentucky to within 3. Lydia Watkins was the Cats' leading scorer. But now the Gamecocks go big. Eva Sliskovich with the baby hook inside. Nice move. And now it's going to be Kalinda Zachary backing down the defender. The turnaround jumper, she's going to get the shooter's bounce. Gamecocks build a little bit of a lead in the first half, but here comes UK with a comeback. Point guard Carly Ormerod bringing the Cats back. Nice jumper in the lane. But here comes the Gamecocks to build their halftime lead. That's Demetrius Adams, and the Gamecocks would have a 2-point lead at the half. And then in the second half, it was point guard Stacy Booker acting as a spark plug for the Gamecocks. The senior from Lawrenceville, Georgia, was all over the floor. Kentucky would hold close, though. Here's Ormerod with the 3, and Kentucky would actually take a 1-point lead in the second half. But here comes the Gamecocks. It's Booker on the steal. She drives. She's looking for the basket, gets the lay-in, and she is fired up, ladies and gentlemen. The Gamecocks take the lead back, and then it was all Melanie Johnson from there on out. there's a star with the fadeaway jumper, Money. She would end up with 17 points and 12 rebounds for another double-double, and the Gamecocks would go on to win this game 66-56 and move to 3-4 in conference, on their way to play the Tennessee Volunteers in Knoxville this week.
Well, you know, Tennessee is they're obviously one of the best opponents, or one of the top teams in college women's basketball, and they just have such a tradition. And Thompson Bowling, the environment there, and you know they'll probably have 8 to 11, 15,000 people there. It's a big time environment there. It always has been. It's every game in the SEC is important. Every game, and this is a conversation we've had with our team as we've had to take a look at ourselves in the mirror a little bit and say, you know, what can we do better? And one of the things that we looked at, we just said we just need to work hard. You know, we just need to scrap and work hard and get after loose balls and take our intensity. Success isn't just going to happen for us because we've got some experience. That we need to win all the hustle plays and we need to battle teams. And our team has really responded to that, and it's going to take every bit of that for 40 minutes at Tennessee to have a chance. And you know, I said starting the year I like our team a lot, and I said starting the year that we've got a chance to beat anybody. And, you know, we've got the depth, and we certainly have nice size, and we need to shoot the ball a little bit better than we did today. I didn't think we shot the ball all that well, and we had the shots that we wanted. But Kentucky is a very physical team, and I think it's a great team to prepare us for that game.
Coming up for the women's basketball team this week, they will travel to Knoxville to take on the highly touted Volunteers on their home floor. After that game, the women's team will return home to take on LSU at home in another key SEC matchup. That game will be played at 3 p.m. in the Colonial Center.
Now for more on both USC's hoops teams, let's go to our analyst in the boardroom.
Welcome into Capital City Sports version of the boardroom. We've got Matt Moore of Capital City Sports Talk here with us, Michael Aguilar of the Daily Gamecock. Guys, let's talk about USC hoops first. The men's team had a very successful week last week with a win over Arkansas at home, and then goes on the road and does something that they've only done twice in the last 4 years, win at an SEC Western Division foe's home court. First, back-to-back wins. Is this program or is this team turned around for the year, and are they going to have a good showing the rest of the way out? We'll start with Matt Moore.
As far as the turnaround goes, I wouldn't think so. I think they played two kind of, I mean, Arkansas at home. Arkansas on the road might be a little bit different story, but then playing on the road in the SEC West doesn't really mean a whole lot this year because I really don't think the SEC West is very good. LSU, they're definitely, I mean, they got beat by Georgia. You got Alabama up top. I don't think they're as good as people think they are. I see the SEC West as a much weaker division, which is good because we've got Auburn coming up. So as far as a turnaround goes, I don't see that just because we have to play so many more games against SEC East teams go.
Michael, are these two wins enough to kind of push them over the top and get them into, you know, a decent standing in the SEC tournament?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think you have to, just like Matt said, you've got two teams who have really been up and down this season. I mean, Mississippi State's lost 6 of their last 8 or something like that. And you've got Arkansas, which on the one hand has beaten a ranked team by 20, on the other hand lost to an unranked team by 20. So you never know which one of those teams is going to show up, so you can't really predict whether or not the Gamecocks have really made a turnaround. I think you got to give them a couple more wins or so before you really say that Dave Odom has done a miracle with this team.
On that note, you just look at the Gamecocks' first couple games in conference. Georgia, Kentucky, Florida, and Tennessee, all Eastern Division teams. Looks like the East is going to be definitely the stronger of the two divisions. They're kind of beating up on the West here. In the back-to-back wins, you obviously saw a lot of Trey Kelly. You saw what he can do, how he can take over a game. He's been doing it all year. Is this injury finally going to catch up to him? Is that knee injury finally going to slow him down at some point in the season? Or do you see him going like this all year? We'll start with Michael this time.
I don't think it's going to slow him down. I mean, when you're talking about a guy like Trey Kelly, you're talking about a serious warrior, a guy that's not going to quit. He's been here, you know, been starting all 4 years, and this is finally his senior season, and it's his time to shine. And I don't think he's going to quit no matter what the cost. I think that the injury is kind of might even be on the downslope of it. I mean, it's definitely something that he needs to be concerned about, but I think that he might be, you know, on the recovery. And potentially we could be seeing him getting healthier and healthier and even more dangerous as the year goes on.
Matt, you see this injury finally slowing him down, or is he going to keep up this pace?
I think if it was going to catch up to him, it already would have. I think he got hobbled a little bit earlier in the SEC schedule and struggled through some games, but still played well. And I think if it was going to stop him at any point, it would have been then. But right now, I mean, he's just playing out of his mind. So.
All right, guys, obviously you've got a tough conference in the SEC, a lot of good point guards. Is Trey Kelly the #1 point guard in the SEC? And if he is, justified. If he's not, who is? We'll start with Matt this time. Who's the #1 point guard in the SEC? Is it Trey Kelly?
I think right now he is, but I think the problem is he's not a point guard. I think the Gamecocks need a point guard so that Trey could be the best shooting guard in the SEC. Because he could probably be one of the best passing shooting guards. He has to do so much as a point guard that we don't get to see. Like, we see him score 23 points in a game, but he could be so much better if he wasn't worried about the ball all the time, if he wasn't worried about controlling. I mean, God forbid Brandon Wallace keeps bringing the ball up the court, but, you know, if he didn't have to carry this team on his shoulders, he'd be even better. But I would say right now I'd have him on an all-SEC first team.
We're also talking about a game now in college basketball where the point guards are doing a lot more scoring, a lot more shooting. Michael, that being said, if you had to pick your first team all-SEC team today, is Trey Kelly your point guard?
Trey Kelly is definitely my point guard. I think that aside from just his straight numbers, which are up there with any point guard in the SEC, you have to look at the team that he's doing it with. I mean, you know, you take him from last year where he had 2 future NBA players on his roster, and then this year, and he's picked up the slack where those 2 are gone, where Ronaldo Bachman isn't there and Torrance Kinsey isn't there. He's picked up the slack. He's scoring more, and I mean, he's got guys to pass to that really just can't handle the load that he's trying to dump off on him. I mean, you see so many times in a game where Dominique Archie literally repels the ball with his hands out of bounds when Trey Kelly drives and tries to pass it to him, and he's missing Ronaldo in that scene. And so with the team that he's got, you've got to give him all SEC.
Just a little thing to think about, guys. If Trey Kelly's the point guard on, say, Florida's team right now, I don't think we're quite having this debate. He's probably got a lot more press. He probably gets a lot more recognition in the national scene, maybe for even an All-American bid at this point. Okay, Trey Kelly's been doing it all season. Who's been most important in this resurgence of the Gamecock team in the last week? Is it Brandon Wallace? Is it Dominique Archie playing a little bit better inside? Or is it Bryce Sheldon finally hitting some shots? Or is it somebody else? Matt, who's most important to their recent success here?
Well, I still would say that the most important person is always going to be Trey Kelly. But if it had to be somebody else, I would look, especially in that Arkansas game in the first half, look at somebody like Dwayne Day. If he can step up and hit a couple shots, or he had a couple steals like back-to-back where he took them both the coast and finished. And so somebody like that, if somebody's playing good defense and creating turnovers and things like that, like Dwayne has done, then the Gamecocks are going to be pretty good.
Michael, who's been kind of the catalyst the last couple games? Obviously Trey Kelly has been leading them, but who's been the kind of the guy that nobody's talking about that's really been important in this team last few games?
I mean, I'm just going to echo Matt and say it's Trey Kelly all the way. I mean, you can't give it to anybody else. But, I mean, on that note, I have to give a bunch of credit to Brandon Wallace. I mean, you look in the last 2 games, the Gamecocks, even after the last 2 games, are the worst rebounding margin team in the SEC with negative 1.5 and over the season. And Brandon Wallace the last 2 games has stepped up and manned up and gotten some huge rebounds, including the one that he passed out to Evka that kind of put the game on ice for the Gamecocks against Arkansas. And then you look at the front court that Mississippi State has, and he pulled down 16 rebounds against those guys, and that's no joke. And, you know, he's put up 10 points in that game too. So if you look at Brandon Wallace being able to be a little bit of a factor on the offensive side, you know, put up 8, 10 points every game, and then pulling down, you know, 12-plus rebounds every game, that's really going to help this team turn it around.
Just a few numbers for you guys. Brandon Wallace, #1 in the SEC in minutes played per game, #2 in rebounds, #3 in block shots, #2 in offensive rebounds. So he's doing all the little things to help the Gamecocks at this point. Let's talk about the week coming up. Obviously, they've got at Alabama this Saturday. Alabama's been an up-and-down team, and then the following Wednesday they go to Kentucky. Do the Gamecocks have to get one of these wins, and can they get one of these wins, Matt?
I think if they're going to get one, it's going to be at Alabama. Because the SEC West, like I said earlier, is struggling a little bit. Traveling to Kentucky, I don't see happening at all. They were down to Tennessee at halftime in Kentucky, and blew them out by 20. I mean, Kentucky's a team that could make some noise in the tournament later on, and playing up there is not going to be good.
So you think they have a realistic shot at maybe beating Alabama on the road?
Maybe, yeah. If they're going to get a win of those 2 games, it's going to be at Alabama.
Michael, can they win down in Tuscaloosa against the Tide, and maybe could they pull the shocker up in Kentucky? What do you think?
I think you definitely see them winning in Tuscaloosa. You're talking about an Alabama team that's been all the way up in the top 10 this year, but then at the same time, they lost to Auburn by 25 points. Granted, that was in Auburn, but I mean, Auburn basketball, home court advantage doesn't scream a 25-point difference to me. So if they catch Alabama on an off night, then it could easily be a win for the Gamecocks. But if going into Kentucky, like Matt said, I really don't see it happening. That's just Kentucky's home court advantage is unreal, and the team is definitely a sleeper this year for, somebody who could really make some noise in the tournament, like Matt said.
Kentucky kind of fallen in that 20 to 25 range the last couple weeks. As Matt said, kind of pulled away from Tennessee. Watch out for them. Just an honorable mention, the women's team winning a couple games in a row here. They're doing some good things. Still only at 3-4 in the SEC. They've got some experience. They've got Tennessee and LSU coming up this week. That's been all for this segment of the Boardroom. We'll be back later in the show to talk some Super Bowl. Meredith, back to you.
Next on the show, we'll get you ready for this weekend's game between the Bears and the Colts. Who will be the next Super Bowl champion? We'll tell you after the break.
What is your problem, man? All right, what's going on here, fellas?
The missile was about to hit the school.
That doesn't change the fact that I don't have a car anymore. Who just throws a person's car at a missile?
You're serious?
Yeah, who's gonna pay for my car?
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many. But what if you've had just one too many? Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Will it be Peyton Manning finally breaking through to win the big one? Or will it be Rex Grossman finally able to bring a Super Bowl win back to Chicago? We'll go back to our boardroom for more analysis.
Welcome back to the Boardroom. Now I have Matt Moore here with me, host of Capital City Sports Talk. And to my right, I've got Michael Aguilar, staff writer for the Daily Gamecock. Guys, thanks for joining us. We're going to talk Super Bowl right now. Let's start it off by breaking down the game a little bit. We'll start with the Bears offense versus the Colts defense. Obviously, the Bears offense led by Rex Grossman, if you can say led, going up against the Colts defense, who has played much better in the playoffs. Who gets the better of this deal in the Super Bowl here? Matt?
Well, I think the Colts defense in the playoffs has been out of this world, but every week you think about, is this going to be the same defensive team that shows up that shut out the Ravens, that played the Patriots pretty well, or is it going to be the team that showed up during the regular season? And I think with this week off is really going to help the Bears offense because Rex Grossman, still a young quarterback, plenty of time to figure some things out against the Colts defense. Bob Sanders, obviously a key role on that defense. So I'm actually going to give the edge to the Bears defense, especially the 2 running backs. I think the 2 running backs are going to have a good day.
Michael, Matt touched on it. Do you see Rex Grossman playing well in this game? He's kind of sputtered through the playoffs, played decently, hasn't had a breakout game yet, but do you think he can do enough to win this game for the Bears?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't think the Bears should be worried about Rex Grossman at all because, as Matt touched on, the 2 running back attack with Cedric Benson and Thomas Jones is just going to be unstoppable. I mean, I think you have to look at the Colts over the entire season, and their defense just has not been able to stand up to strong running backs. And, I mean, they played well in the playoffs, but, I mean, they've got to have a breakdown at one point or another. And you watch at the end of the Saints-Bears games when Thomas Jones and Cedric Benson just went to town. And, I mean, Lovie Smith just wasn't even worried about Rex Grossman throwing the ball for the better part of the fourth quarter. And so I think that's something that the Colts are just going to have to watch out for.
All right. We talked about, both you guys say the Bears should focus on the run, but will that be enough to overcome this Colts defense in this game? Do you think Thomas Jones and Cedric Benson can do enough on their own without Rex Grossman and win this football game, Matt?
Oh, yeah, I think we saw much lower caliber running backs kill this Colts defense. And so I think 2 guys like Thomas Jones and Caleb Williams, they'll go to town. So I really don't think the Colts are going to be able to stop them defensively, but a lot of it's going to come down to the Colts' ball control. If the Bears don't have the ball, if the ball's in Peyton Manning's hand, there's nothing the offense can do.
Mike, can Thomas Jones and Cedric Benson win this game for the Bears?
I think that they can. I think that they will be able to, but I think the very key thing will be for the Bears to establish that run game very early in the game and then take 1 or 2 plays and give Rex Grossman the chance to break the game open with deep play action passes or something of that nature.
All right, flipping to the other side of the ball, the Colts offense versus the Bears defense. We're going to start with Matt. Peyton Manning versus this vaunted Bears defense has kind of given up more yards and more points in recent weeks, but they're still getting those turnovers. They're still being the difference in the game. Can Peyton Manning do enough in this and prove himself in this game to be a big-time quarterback?
Well, like the other side of the ball, it's kind of been a tale of 2 seasons for the Bears defense. Earlier in the season, nobody could do anything against them, but the playoffs and the last 3 games of regular season, they got killed. They got ran up and down the field. A guy like Peyton Manning, you always think that he's gonna do some things, that he's gonna tear a defense apart with the audibles and things like that. But I think the Bears proved in that Saints game that when they show up to play, they're probably the best defense in the NFL. So I see more of that, and Peyton, not Peyton struggling, but Peyton just doing his thing and the Bears doing their thing and almost kind of evening each other out.
Michael, after this weekend, are we going to still be talking about Peyton Manning, the choke artist in the playoffs, or are we going to be talking about a Peyton Manning who's finally got a Super Bowl? Can he do enough against this Bears linebacking core and secondary to get the Colts over the hump?
I think that you probably haven't ever seen a secondary or linebacking core in the NFL that Peyton Manning won't be able to pick apart given the opportunity. But if you look back at the Saints game, the key for the Bears defense was the pressure they had on Drew Brees. And there's no question about that. He just didn't have the time that he's had in other games. I think that's where the key is for the Colts offense, is to give Peyton Manning time to, set up his audibles, check down where he needs to check down, or make the big play when he has a chance to make the big play. And if he doesn't have time, he's just not going to be able to do anything.
Early in this season, guys, Peyton Manning struggled when he didn't have much of a running game behind him. Joseph Addai going up against a tough Bears defense here. Matt, can Joseph Addai break through and give Peyton Manning a little help in this game against that Bears defense?
Any Colts offense success is going to come from Peyton Manning. I don't see Joseph. I can see maybe a big run early could help Peyton down the road, but the Bears know that they have to stop Peyton, and really they're probably not going to worry about Addai too much. I don't see Addai playing a major role. I think Peyton. It's up to Peyton, really, as far as Colts offense goes. But at the same token, Urlacher and the Bears defense has to step up. They can't let Addai beat them. If they let Addai beat them, then there's no reason they should have even been in this game.
Michael, on the same token, Matt says Joseph Addai and them should not be much of a factor. It should focus on Peyton. Do the Colts come out early and try to use Addai, and do the Bears, are they able to stop Addai early and make Peyton Manning beat him?
I think that Addai is to the Colts offense what Grossman is to the Bears offense. I think that you're going to see a lot of Peyton Manning early, and a lot of the short passes, and then even mix it up with some deep passes and try and spread out the Bears defense. And then here and there, you're going to start to see Joseph Dye come in and try and chip away at the Bears and bring them closer and put more men in the box. And if he's able to break a 10-yard run here, a 15-yard run there, and start getting the Bears worried about, well, we can't let him kill us on the ground, after that, then you're going to see Peyton Manning really go to town. So it's all, a matter of, is Rex Grossman going to be able to make the big play, or is Joseph Dye going to be able to wear down the Bears' defense?
All right, we talked about Bears offense versus Colts defense. Talked about Colts offense versus Bears defense. Who's that X factor in this game? In most big games like this, you have that guy that maybe nobody expected. Is that a Joseph Dye? Is it an Urlacher? Maybe an Adam Vinatieri? We'll start with Michael this time. Who's your X factor in Super Bowl 41?
I think that the X factor is going to be the guy that's kind of stepped up and made the Colts defense what it's been in the playoffs. I think that they're going to have to depend on Bob Sanders to make some big stops and to end some drives, because I don't think the Bears are going to be afraid to come out and run the ball on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6, And so I think that's going to be up to him to kind of be the rover and the guy who plugs the holes where the Bears line and the lead blockers for the Bears make the holes.
Matt, who's your X factor in the Super Bowl?
I'll give you two, one for each team. One, somebody we haven't even mentioned yet, Devin Hester, returning kicks. If the Colts let him touch the ball, then they're making a big mistake. Even on kick, I'd kick it off out of bounds. I would not let Devin Hester beat me. But on the other side of the ball, special teams-wise, Adam Vinatieri. I can really see this game coming down to a field goal. And if it comes down to a field goal, I want Adam Vinatieri on my team. So those two guys, especially on the special team side of the ball, are going to play big roles.
Okay, we broke down the game. We've got our X factors. Brian Urlacher could be an X factor in this game if he's able to maybe get it on a blitz to Peyton Manning and stuff that run again with Joseph Dye. You guys mentioned Vinatieri. You mentioned Bob Sanders. If Dye is able to run, he would obviously be an X factor. But let's move on to the meat of it, the predictions for this game. Michael, how's it going to turn out? Who comes out on top? What's your score?
I see it coming down to the Colts having the better kicker. Vinatieri, just like Matt said, I think that you might see the Bears jump out to an early lead, but I see Peyton Manning being the veteran that he is and showing the poise that he showed thus far in the playoffs, bringing his team back in the second half, and it being a field goal at the end of the game that decides it.
All right, we got one vote, Adam Vinatieri, for a game-winning field goal. Colts, Matt, who's winning the Super Bowl?
Took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, we said it on the radio yesterday. I said 24-21 Colts on a maybe not even a last-minute field goal, but just that field goal that kind of puts them over the 3 touchdowns that the Bears are going to get.
I'm going to throw in my 2 cents here. And a shocker, Rex Grossman's your X factor. Kind of surprises some people with a couple touchdown passes. Not going to have a great game. He'll get some yards. I think that Bears defense is really going to come up with the turnovers that they're used to getting. Maybe it's a couple fumbles. Maybe it's an interception here off Peyton Manning. And I think they pull away in the fourth quarter and win by 2 touchdowns. 2 votes Colts, 1 vote Bears. The Colts are your Capital City Sports Super Bowl champions here. We'll find out what happens on the field on Sunday. Let's go back to our host, Meredith. Thanks a lot.
The buzz around the Gamecock football program is higher than ever. Next, we'll tell you what kind of talent Coach Steve Spurrier has coming in the next season. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Frozen Peas, respected member of our community for years, determined to always do just the right thing, committed to support the growth of our children, and effective at lowering bad cholesterol. Frozen Peas, courage, integrity, fresh ideas. This message paid for by the Friends of Frozen Peas.
If you're not voting, then who are you electing?
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many. But what if you've had just one too many? Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Here we go.
What? What? All right, what's the joke? What's so funny?
After an 8-5 season, Coach Steve Spurrier is hoping to skip the rebuilding phase and simply reload. For more on the USC recruiting class coming in, here's our own Jonathan Hilliard.
We're here with our recruiting guru, Sean Campbell. Sean, thanks for joining us on the show today. Let's jump right into football recruiting. First, Gamecocks having a pretty good year on the recruiting front. Just to name off a few guys out of their top 10 recruits, they pull off 5-star Chris Culliver, a receiver out of North Carolina. Steven Garcia, the quarterback, is obviously already in school. Travian Robertson, a defensive end, is already in school. They also have commitments from defensive ends Cliff Matthews, wide receiver Dion LaCorn, offensive lineman Quentin Richardson. Out of those top guys, who really stands out to you just when you hear those big name recruits?
I think you got to look at the 5-star Chris Culliver. He's got amazing speed. Scout quotes him as a 4.28 40. And I think he's going to add a dimension to our offense that we've lacked under Spurrier thus far. You can look at him like a Percy Harvin type receiver that we'll use him as next year.
Kind of the deep threat to go along with maybe some bigger receivers in this offense.
And maybe some trick plays, some reverses.
Good point, good point. Next, let's look at who you think can make the most immediate impact on this team. First, let's look at offense. Of the guys who have committed as of today, who do you see making the earliest impact on the team?
Once again, probably Chris Culliver, only because I think Blake Mitchell, the way he played at the end of last season, has probably locked up the starting QB spot. Corey Boyd and Mike Davis will start at halfback. Tight ends, we use them more to block than receive so far, so you got to look at Andy Boyd starting there. So really the biggest hole in our offense so far is wide receiver with Sidney Rice leaving. So I think maybe Chris Culliver will step in, even though he's not the big type receiver Sidney Rice is. I think he'll get a lot of touches, and I think Freddie Brown from the team already, he'll step in and make those 3rd and 7 catches that Sidney got for us last year.
An early vote for Chris Culliver to make an early impact. Let's talk about defense. You've obviously had a really good recruiting year as far as defense goes, especially on the defensive line. Which one of those guys makes the early impact next year?
I got to say Cliff Matthews, 4-star, number 32 player in the nation on the Rivals 100. He was the All-Star of the Shrine Bowl and I believe also the Rivals Offense Defense All-American Bowl. He's proved that he can play not only with guys in your run-of-the-mill high school, but with all-stars from around the nation. So I think he'll come in and make an immediate impact.
Cliff Matthews from Sherrall, a defensive end, as you said, the 32nd prospect in the country?
Yes.
Number 32 prospect in the country. All right, you talk about who made the early impact. Let's look down the line, and obviously recruiting is not an exact science. You can't determine exactly what these guys are going to do, but who has the biggest career as an offensive player out of this class in this recruiting class? Who goes on to be that superstar at Carolina?
Offense, well, I'm going to go with Brian Maddox out of TL Hanna. I think he's going to be a stud running back. He'll probably get redshirted this year, and he'll start playing after Corey Boyd leaves, and he'll be a starter for us for 4 years, I think.
Brian Maddox at running back. You also have Steven Garcia is enrolled in class. It'll be interesting to see the battle next year when him and Chris Smelly go head-to-head. All right, on defense, who has the biggest career as a Gamecock from the 07 class?
I'm going to go with Mark Barnes. I think he's going to step in and be, the kind of safety that we haven't really had since Coe left, and I think he'll be, once again, he might get redshirted because we have Chris Hampton back there this coming year, and I think he'll step in and be just a headhunter back there.
Mark Barnes, another local guy from Columbia, Richland Northeast, was in the Rivals 100 there for a while, kind of dropped out because of, the team didn't play real well and the defense didn't have great numbers overall.
Also, Rivals listed him as a wide receiver when he was a 5-star athlete. They were looking at him more as a wide receiver, but Richland Northeast offense has some problems. I think Gary Gray actually started at quarterback for a while, and they moved Mark Barnes to safety, so I think he'll play safety for us, but he fell because Rivals called it wrong, I think. But
there you go. Well, also, Mark Barnes is also a guy who played both ways in the high school level. If they have a little bit of trouble bringing up these receivers, do you see him maybe getting in a little bit of play on both sides of the ball?
I really don't think so. I think we've got, 6 or 7 wide receivers coming in this class. We've got Freddie Brown, Mo Brown, Jared Cook. I think we have just a glutton of wide receivers. I don't think Mark Barnes will see much time on the offensive side of the ball.
All right, talking about where the Gamecocks did the best job this year, what position of all the positions they've recruited this year did they do the best job? Was it wide receiver? Was it defensive end? Was it maybe corner in the secondary? Where did they do the best job?
I think you got to just look at the entire defensive line. We got, Clifton Geathers and Ashaboy out of prep school, so they'll have 5 years to play for.
Right.
And those guys, they've already had 1 year of post-high school football. They're going to come in, they're bigger, they're used to, a faster style game. I think they'll come in and get significant playing time, if not start. And then you've got Trevain Robinson and Cliff Matthews that come in, all 4 stars. I think that entire defensive line is going to be revamped. We might see Casper Brinkley at linebacker next year, but I think those guys will be good for the next 4 years.
Definitely looks like a daunting defensive line for the future for the Gamecocks if all these guys pan out. Okay, we talked about the guys that we think are the sure hits, the guys that are going to come in, make an early impact. What about the surprise of the class? Who's the Co Simpson of this class? Who is maybe Emmanuel Cook from this season? Or I'm trying to think of some other guys that made an early impact, maybe Carlos Thomas from last season. Who's your surprise of the year? Let's start with offense.
Offense, I think it's got to be maybe Jason Barnes. He was a 3-star receiver, recently got moved up to a 4-star. He's got the exact mold of Sidney Rice as far as a body goes, and I think while he might not play a lot his first year, I think in the end he'll be a great possession receiver.
Jason Barnes just recently moved up from 3 stars to 4 stars, cracked the Rivals top 250 players in the country. Another guy I know that you like an awful lot and that I like watching some videos, Joseph Hills.
Oh yeah,
kind
he's
of
a freak of nature. Yeah.
Kind of a combo tight end, wide receiver, outside linebacker in high school. A lot of guys on the recruiting circuit thinks he ends up at wide receiver, kind of trying to fill the void for Sidney Rice. Where do you see him fitting into the Gamecocks next year?
I think you'll see him at tight end, whether it's next year or not. It's just if they want to use the tight end more. Do we move Jared Cook back to tight end? Do we leave him at wide receiver? I think he's just so versatile that it'll really depend. He might get redshirted, he might not. It just depends. But I think whenever he plays, whatever he does, he'll be excellent.
Sean? Thanks for your time. That's the inside scoop on the 2007 Gamecock recruiting class. Back to you, Meredith.
He's sort of a slippery, elusive defensive lineman that can knife around and make some things happen. So he wanted to come here. We're excited that he's here with us now. Ryan Broadhead we signed with last year's freshman class, and he decided to help us out and come in January. So he set out the semester. I think he worked out lifting and running for about 4 or 5 months. He really looks good. Stephen, what I like is he can run. He can move around, and I think he's an excellent passer also. He set a whole bunch of records down there and so forth. But I think what Stephen gives us is a good passer that can also run. Travian, defensive lineman from up in Laurinburg, and finished up early and graduated early in high school, as did Stephen, and wanted to come on down. So we're excited. Travian is down here in school and ready to get through spring practice and go from there. Yeah, Larry Freeman, I think he's from Fort Meade, Florida. He went to junior college in Mississippi, and we think he's got a chance to be an excellent receiver. We'll put him out there with all the rest of our guys this spring and see how it turns out.
After the break, we'll dive in with the USC swim and dive team. That's coming up on Capital City Sports.
He'll be a senator with integrity.
He has my family's future in mind.
He cares about young people.
He's a hard worker.
He's focused.
Effective. I believe in Old Relish Packet.
We need a condiment with values.
He'll represent us well in Washington, and he is so good looking.
Old Relish Packet and I were trapped 50 miles behind enemy lines. He saved my life.
This message paid for by Citizens for Old Relish Packet.
If you're not voting, then who are you electing?
The rainbow, my pot of gold, your daddy's little girl till heaven home.
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many. But what if you've had just one too many? Buzz driving is drunk driving.
What is your problem, man?
You're welcome.
What the heck is wrong with you?
What do you mean?
Don't give me that! All right, what's going on here, fellas?
The missile was about to hit the school. I just acted as fast as I could.
That doesn't change the fact that I don't have a car anymore. Who just throws a person's car at a missile?
You're serious?
Yeah, who's gonna pay for my car?
I guess I could.
Do you even have a real job?
Yes.
Do you have insurance?
I saw the whole thing. Call me.
The USC swim and dive team is getting their spring schedule cranked up. Capital City Sports has more on what's to come in 2007. We watch them on the field and on the court, and we just can't get enough. Little did we know that some of the best athletes around compete for the Gamecocks in the pool. The USC swimming and diving team is coming into the toughest part of their schedule with conference and national tournaments coming up. The Gamecock Divers will take center stage this weekend at the SEC Diving Championships in Kentucky. David Ovelson and Corey Christian will compete in men's diving, while senior Lindsay Havens has a chance to come home with gold in the women's competition. Havens is ranked #1 in the conference on the 1-meter board and has won 4 events there this year. Next, the swimmers will take the pool in Lexington for the SEC Championships. Head coach Don Gibb will try to lead several of his swimmers to SEC titles next week, including All-Americans Dan White and Kyle Cormier. Senior Cormier, another All-American, is looking to push his team over the top in his last season and has taken on a major leadership role with the team. On the women's side, returning All-American Christy Williams will compete in the freestyle and butterfly competitions. Other hopefuls for the ladies include sophomore Chantel McLean in the freestyle and Lindsay Tiberio in the breaststroke. Capital City Sports was with the team at a recent meet and has the inside scoop.
Candid, yeah, on the elevator. Doing things like this. Ohio State.
Way to go, way to go! Way to go, Lindsay! 1, 2, 3! Way to go, Lindsay!
I will see you in the airport tomorrow morning.
So, all I'm going to say this morning is find a way to score points. No one makes bonus heats. If you're in bonus, don't fucking swim at night. Top 16 or nothing, all right? Find a way to get in and score. We need those points, all right? We are better than they are, and they know it. We have less guys than anyone here, and and we're the best team here. So find a way to score. That's all I'm going to say. Give it everything you guys your last day. Don't leave anything to go home with. Leave it all in this pool. And get in so you can score and get points for us.
1 for 1, 1 for all. Let's go, guys.
Right, fellas.
Cox on 3.
What are you doing? Cox on 3.
Yeah, Cox on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Cox!
That's all for this week's episode of Capital City Sports. Tune in every Thursday at 8 p.m. only on SGTV for more. I'm Jonathan Hilliard.
And I'm Meredith Harvey. We'll see you next week.
What is your problem, man? All right, what's going on here, fellas?
The missile was about to hit the school.
That doesn't change the fact that I don't have a car anymore. Who just throws a person's car at a missile?
You're serious?
Yeah, who's gonna pay for my car?